I still remember the day he walked into our house for the first time. The boy who would change everything. The boy my 3 stepsisters would choose over me. The boy who would become the center of the world that was once mine. It started with a knock on the door. A soft, hesitant knock. The kind you give when you're not sure if you're welcome. I didn't know then that behind that knock was the beginning of my downfall. I was sitting on the living room couch, half bored, half lost in my own thoughts, when my stepmother rushed past me with a smile big enough to light up the entire neighborhood. "He's here," she whispered excitedly. "He." Before I could ask, she swung the door open, and there he stood, small, thin, and holding a worn-out duffel bag that looked heavier than his entire body. His eyes were wide and nervous, like he'd stepped into a world he didn't belong in. I knew the feeling well. My stepsisters appeared instantly, as if summoned by the arrival of some celebrity. Ava, the oldest, practically pushed me aside so she could get closer. Lily and Rose hovered behind her, grinning like they'd just won a prize. My stepmother knelt down to the boy's level and hugged him. "Welcome home, sweetheart." Home. Just one word. But that word hit me like a slap. I stood there, silent, watching a stranger walk into a place I barely felt welcome in myself. For months, my stepmother had been talking about adoption. She never asked my opinion. She didn't even ask if I was okay with sharing. She didn't ask anything. And now, right in front of me, she was giving this boy the warm welcome I never received. "Come in, Noah," Ava said as she held out her hand. "We've been waiting for you." Noah. So he already had a name here. A place here. A role here. I didn't. He stepped inside, and for reasons I couldn't explain, the air shifted. The living room suddenly felt smaller, and I felt like an outsider in my own home. My stepsisters surrounded him instantly, each one trying to impress him in her own annoying way. Rose took his bag. Lily took his hand. Ava started showing him around like she was giving a tour of a palace. Not once did any of them look at me. Not even a glance. I forced a smile, one of those smiles that hurts your cheeks because it's not real, and stepped closer. "Hey, I'm." "Not now," Ava snapped without even looking at me. "He's nervous. Don't overwhelm him." Overwhelm him? I wasn't even allowed to introduce myself. I stepped back, biting my tongue. It wasn't the first time they'd dismissed me, but this time, it stung differently. Maybe because I saw something in their eyes I'd never seen before. Not annoyance. Not irritation. Competition. As if I wasn't worth competing with. My stepmother led them all into the dining room, where she had prepared a full feast, something she never did for me, not even on my birthdays. The table looked like a celebration. Colorful plates, pretty napkins, candles, and all the foods I loved. But that was the thing. It wasn't for me. I stood in the doorway, watching as they pulled out a chair for Noah. My seat. My usual place at the table. Without hesitation, he sat down. He didn't know, of course. How could he? But my stepsisters did. They knew. And they didn't care. As I approached the table, Rose placed her hand on the back of the seat next to them and smiled sweetly at Noah. "You can sit here. This is where the important people sit." Important people. Meaning not me. There was one empty chair left, far at the end of the table, almost like an afterthought. A chair they hadn't used since last winter when we had guests. A chair that felt like a wall between them and me. My stepmother didn't say a word. Not "come sit closer." Not "don't exclude him." Nothing. I sat down quietly, swallowing the burning feeling in my throat. For the next hour, they talked, laughed, and asked Noah endless questions. "What's your favorite color? Do you like video games? Do you want to see the backyard? Do you like your new room?" New room? That got my attention. "What room?" I asked. Ava looked at me as if I was interrupting something sacred. "Mom said you can have your old room." My heart stopped. "My old room?" I repeated slowly. Lily giggled. "Yeah, you don't need it. The smaller one fits you better." "It's not even your house," Rose added. "Don't act like you own anything here." I clenched my fists under the table, but I kept my voice steady. "So you're moving me?" My stepmother finally looked at me, and even that felt like a chore for her. "He needs a comfortable, welcoming environment. You'll adjust. Stop making a scene." A scene. I wasn't making a scene. I was losing my home. Piece by piece. Minute by minute. Noah looked uncomfortable for a moment, but my stepsisters quickly leaned in to distract him with a story about how amazing the house was. They didn't want him to look at me. They didn't want him to think about me. I wasn't part of the new picture they were painting. I pushed my chair back gently and stood up. "Where are you going?" my stepmother asked, annoyed. "I'm done," I said simply. I walked away, feeling the familiar sting of being unwanted, but this time it hit harder. Stronger. Like something inside me had cracked. As I reached my room, my old room, I found the door already open. Boxes were inside. My clothes thrown on the bed. My posters removed from the walls. They didn't even wait. They didn't even ask. I sat on the floor, staring at the empty walls that had once held my memories. The house buzzed with laughter downstairs, laughter that didn't need me. And in that moment, something settled deep inside my chest. Not hatred. Not anger. Just a cold, silent understanding. That was the day everything changed. The day Noah arrived. The day I started disappearing from my own family. And the day my stepsisters began their betrayal. The days after Noah's arrival passed slowly. Slowly enough for me to feel every bruise on my pride, every crack forming in the fragile space I once called home. I kept telling myself it was just an adjustment period. That maybe, once the excitement faded, everything would return to normal. But it didn't. It only got worse. The house that once noticed me no longer did. The first morning set the tone for everything that would follow. I walked into the kitchen, tired, hoping for a normal breakfast. My stepmother stood by the stove, humming, an extremely rare event. 3 plates were already set on the table. All of them full. All of them not mine. My plate, usually waiting for me at the side, wasn't there. "Oh, you're up," my stepmother muttered, as if my existence surprised her. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Is there?" Before I could finish, she turned back to the food. "There's cereal somewhere. Help yourself." Cereal. For me. While Noah and my stepsisters ate pancakes, eggs, fresh fruit, the kind of breakfast I hadn't tasted in months. Ava looked up at me with a smirk. "You shouldn't expect Mom to cook for everyone. She's already busy. Busy cooking for them." I nodded quietly and grabbed the cereal box, empty. Lily giggled under her breath. Rose hid her smile behind her orange juice. Noah looked up at me, guilt flickering across his eyes, but he didn't say anything. And that silence hurt more than any words. My room became a storage closet. It took only 2 days for my temporary room to turn into a permanent punishment. The tiny, cold space felt more like a forgotten storage closet than a bedroom. Boxes were stacked against one wall. Some weren't even mine. There was barely enough room for the bed they pushed in there. Ava had taken my old room for Noah. She decorated it like she was crafting a masterpiece. New bedding, new curtains, even fairy lights around the windows. "It should feel like a real home for him," she told me proudly. What about me? Did I not deserve a real home too? But nobody asked. Slowly, my things vanished. At first, it was small things. My stepmother borrowed my pillow because Noah liked how soft it was. Then my blanket went missing. My books disappeared from their shelf. My favorite hoodie ended up on Noah's bed like it belonged there. Whenever I asked where my things were, one of my stepsisters would shrug. Oh, he needed it. He liked it. He deserves comfort. And what did I deserve? Apparently nothing. Every conversation became a wall. I tried talking to my stepmother one evening while she watched a drama on TV. "Mom, I think I'm struggling with all the changes." "I don't have time for your moods," she snapped, eyes glued to the screen. "Can't you see this is important for Noah? He's been through so much. And I haven't?" I asked softly. She didn't answer. My stepsisters were worse. Whenever I approached them, they'd either ignore me, shut the door in my face, or whisper things loud enough for me to hear. "He's jealous. He's being dramatic. Why can't he just let Noah be happy? He's so insecure." They painted me as the villain for wanting to keep what little I had left. Noah became their golden child. And it wasn't even Noah's fault, not fully. He tried talking to me. He tried easing the tension. But every time he did, my stepsisters appeared, pulling him away like bodyguards afraid I'd contaminate their golden boy. They praised him for everything. Noah finished his homework. Noah cleaned his room. Noah helped set the table. Things I did every single day without praise. One night at dinner, I made a joke, a simple, harmless one. Nobody laughed. They didn't even look at me. But when Noah made a joke 2 minutes later, the room exploded with laughter. My stepmother actually clapped. I stared at my empty plate, feeling smaller than ever. The blame game began. If something went wrong, it didn't matter who did it. The blame automatically landed on me. A broken vase? Why did you leave it near the edge? Shoes missing? You probably misplaced them. Dinner burnt? You distracted me. even when I wasn't home. The worst was the night someone spilled juice all over the living room carpet. My stepsisters insisted I did it, even though I was in the backyard the entire time. He's lying, Ava said confidently. He's always trying to ruin things, Lily added. He can't stand Noah being here, Rose whispered dramatically. My stepmother didn't ask for proof. She didn't ask Noah. She just yelled at me. You will clean it. End of story. And I did. Not because I was guilty, but because arguing no longer mattered. They had more voices. More influence. I had none. My identity faded one day at a time. The hardest part wasn't losing my room. Or my belongings. Or my mother's attention. The hardest part was losing myself. I started walking quietly. Speaking softly. Doing everything in my power not to anger anyone. I tiptoed around the house like a stranger afraid of being thrown out. I stayed out longer after school, eating alone in the park. The house wasn't home anymore. It was a place that tolerated me, nothing more. One evening, as I stood outside, I heard laughter coming from my old room. Noah was inside with my stepsisters, playing a game I taught them years ago. They used to beg me to play with them, but now they didn't even invite me. I pressed my hand against the doorframe and whispered to myself. They've replaced me. Noah tried, but it was too late. One night, Noah found me sitting on the porch steps in the dark. I didn't mean to take your room, he said quietly. Or your things. I shook my head. It's not your fault. He hesitated before speaking again. Why don't they treat you like they treat me? I laughed bitterly. Because you're what they wanted. I'm what they settled for. He didn't know what to say. Maybe there were no words. Before he could continue, Ava called out sharply. Noah, come inside. It's freezing. He stood up, gave me a helpless look, and went back in. The door closed softly behind him. Softly, but it felt like it slammed on my heart. I realized something that night. It wasn't Noah who replaced me. It was my stepsisters. My stepmother. My whole family. They had found a new favorite, and there was no room left for me in their new world. As I sat alone under the porch light, the truth finally settled in, painful but undeniable. I wasn't just being replaced. I was being erased. If losing my room hurt, if being ignored drained me, if slowly fading from their world scarred me, then what happened next broke something inside me that could never be repaired again. It began on a quiet Thursday night. Quiet in the way a storm is quiet moments before it destroys everything in its path. The whispering started. I was coming up the stairs after dinner, planning to lock myself in my tiny room before anyone invented another reason to blame me for something. But right before I reached the landing, I heard whispers coming from my stepsister's shared room. Their door was cracked open just enough for voices to spill out. At first, their tone was sharp, angry, irritated. But then I heard my name. My instinct was to walk away. My heart told me to stay. And so I stood there, holding my breath, listening to the words that would change everything. We need to do something about him. Ava's voice. Cold. Confident. Like she was discussing a problem, not a person. Lily added, he ruins the vibe of this house. Noah's uncomfortable around him. Uncomfortable? I barely spoke around him just to avoid causing drama. Rose whispered, almost gleefully. If we convince Mom that he's dangerous or unstable, she'll send him away. She already prefers Noah. My lungs froze. Send me away? For what? For existing? Ava continued, he has no real claim here. Mom took him in because of Dad's last wish. And Dad's gone now. She doesn't owe him anything. I felt like my chest was collapsing inward. They spoke about me like I wasn't human. Just a leftover obligation no one wanted. Lily chimed in, voice sharp. Noah likes us better. He trusts us. We can't let him feel unsafe just because the old kid can't handle being replaced. Old kid. That's what I had become. An outdated toy thrown into a dusty corner. Then came the words that cut deeper than anything before. Rose asked softly, Are we sure we shouldn't tell Mom what we found? Ava replied without hesitation. Of course we should. It's perfect. My stomach twisted. What they found? I hadn't done anything. Lily's voice lowered. I still can't believe he wrote that. It's creepy. Wrote what? Rose added. Imagine Mom's reaction when she reads it. She'll snap. I blinked, confused and terrified. I hadn't written anything. Ava said, We'll tell her tomorrow. And Noah already agreed to back us up. Noah? Backing up what? My heart pounded in my chest so loudly I was afraid they could hear it from behind the door. They weren't just replacing me. They weren't just ignoring me. They were plotting something. Something that could ruin me. I stepped back, one shaky foot at a time, terrified the floorboards would creak. Once I was far enough, I turned and slipped into my room, my tiny, suffocating box of a room, and closed the door. For minutes, I just sat there, trembling, trying to make sense of what I'd heard. What had they found? What were they accusing me of? Why would Noah, who seemed kind, agree to lie? Unless they had pressured him, or manipulated him, or promised him something. My thoughts spiraled until I couldn't sit still anymore. The confrontation I should have avoided. I should have stayed quiet. I should have waited. But fear makes you do things you regret later. I walked downstairs, heart pounding, and found my stepmother in the living room, scrolling through her phone. "Mom," I said softly. She didn't look up. "What?" "I think Ava, Lily, and Rose are planning something. Something about making you think I—" "Stop," she snapped, lowering her phone. "I don't want to hear your nonsense tonight. It's not nonsense. There." She raised a hand sharply. "Don't blame them because you're jealous of Noah." "Jealous?" The word tasted like poison. "I'm not jealous," I said quietly. "I just heard them talking. They're lying." "Enough," she shouted. Her voice echoed through the living room, and I flinched. I hadn't realized Noah was standing in the hallway until I saw him step forward nervously. "What's going on?" he asked softly. My stepmother turned to him instantly, her tone shifting from anger to sweet warmth. "Nothing you have to worry about, darling." I felt invisible again. A problem, not a person. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg her to listen. But before I could speak again, the stairs creaked. My stepsisters appeared. Ava's eyes widened, pretending shock. "Mom, we were actually coming to talk to you." Lily held a folded piece of paper in her hand, a paper I had never seen before. Rose whispered, "We found this under his bed." My breath caught. Lily handed it to my stepmother. "You need to read it." She opened it, and I watched her face change, confusion first, then disgust, then fury. She held the paper as if it burned her fingers. "What is this?" she demanded, glaring at me. I don't know," I stammered. "I've never seen it." Ava scoffed. "Oh, please. It's your handwriting." I shook my head violently. "It's not mine." But my stepmother wasn't listening. She was already reading from the page. Words I had never written. Sentences filled with anger, resentment, and threats. Lines describing how I hated them. How I wanted revenge. How I wished Noah had never come. My world tilted. This is fake," I gasped. "I didn't write this. They're framing me." My stepmother slammed the paper down. "Do not lie to me." Tears burned in my eyes. Not because I was weak, but because I had never felt so cornered, so helpless. Ava crossed her arms. "We didn't want to show you, but we were scared." Lily nodded dramatically. "What if he snaps?" Rose added softly. "We're just trying to keep Noah safe." Noah looked torn, guilty, but he didn't speak. He didn't defend me. He didn't correct them. He stayed silent. And that silence was the betrayal that hurt most. My stepmother looked me in the eyes, and the final decision was already made. "You will stay away from Noah. Stay out of everyone's way. I will not tolerate this behavior." But, not another word. I felt my throat close. I stood there as the family walked past me, Noah included. Each one passing like I was invisible. Like I wasn't part of them anymore. As the living room lights dimmed and footsteps faded upstairs, the truth hit me with painful clarity. They had turned him against me. They had created a lie so believable it destroyed my voice. And Noah, the boy who took everything, let them. Asterisk, asterisk. I stood alone in the dark, the false letter crumpled on the floor near my feet, and realized. This wasn't just replacement anymore. This was betrayal in its purest, cruelest form. And something inside me shattered for good. Some people say a breaking point is loud, a scream, a slam, an explosion. But mine wasn't. Mine was quiet. Too quiet. Silence can be more dangerous than noise. And in that silence, I learned how it feels when a person finally loses everything. The aftermath of the letter. The night they framed me with that fake letter, I barely slept. I spent hours staring at the cracked ceiling of my tiny room, listening to the muffled laughter coming from downstairs. My stepsisters' voices. My stepmother's approval. Noah's soft laugh, slowly blending into their world. Not mine. Every word they spoke that night was a reminder that I had no place among them anymore. At one point, I heard them talking about me again. Ava's voice floated through the air vent. "He's too emotional. It's pathetic." Lily snickered. "I bet he's crying right now." Rose whispered, maybe he should just leave. It'd be better for everyone. And no, he didn't say anything. Not once. That silence hurt more than any insult they threw at me. The morning after. The next morning, I walked downstairs expecting more cold looks, more walls, more accusations. But what I saw next broke me in a way nothing else could. Noah was wearing my hoodie. My favorite one. The one my dad gave me before he died. I froze at the bottom step. That's mine, I whispered before I could stop myself. Ava looked up from the breakfast table. Not anymore. Noah likes it. Lily rolled her eyes. Why are you being so dramatic? It's the only thing I have left from my dad, I said quietly. Rose smirked. Well, you should have taken better care of it. Noah glanced at me, guilt flickering for a second, but he didn't take it off. He didn't apologize. He didn't say it wasn't his idea. He just kept eating. My stepmother looked at me like I was a stray animal she was tired of feeding. I don't want any more conflict from you. Sit down and eat or go to school early. I felt something inside me crumble. That hoodie wasn't just clothing. It was memory. It was comfort. It was the last thing my dad touched before he passed. And now it was theirs. No, it was Noah's. The accusation that broke me. As I turned to leave, Ava suddenly spoke. Oh, Mom, he accidentally pushed Noah yesterday on the stairs. I spun around. What? No, I didn't. Lily nodded innocently. I saw it too. Rose added. He's been acting unstable. My stepmother's face darkened. Is this true? No, I said firmly. They're lying. But she didn't care. She never did. You stay away from him, she snapped. You hear me? If you touch him again, I swear. I didn't. I protested. I haven't even talked to him since. You're becoming a danger, she interrupted harshly. A danger. Me. The quiet one. The invisible one. The one barely holding himself together. I stared at Noah again, waiting, hoping that he would speak up. Tell the truth. Tell her I hadn't done anything. He didn't. He just lowered his head. That was my breaking point. Not the lies. Not the loss. Not the betrayal. It was the realization that he wouldn't defend me even when the truth was obvious. That he wasn't just replacing me. He was letting them erase me. Walking out, I turned and walked out the door. No bag. No jacket. No plan. Just pain guiding my steps. The cold air slapped my face, but I kept walking until the house was out of sight. I didn't know where I was going, but anywhere felt better than that place. I wandered through the neighborhood, the world around me blurry from the tears I didn't try to hide. People passed by without noticing. Cars honked. Birds chirped. Life went on, even if mine felt like it was collapsing. I ended up at the only place I felt safe. The old park behind my school. I sat on the swings, gripping the chains until my knuckles turned white. I stayed there for hours, replaying every moment, every word, every betrayal. My dad's face flashed in my mind. The man who promised I would never be alone. The man my stepmother pretended to love. The man my stepsisters couldn't care less about. I whispered into the cold air. What would you do, Dad? But the wind didn't answer. The final straw. By the time I returned home, the house was filled with music and laughter. My stepsisters were decorating the living room. Noah was playing video games on the couch, my video games. My stepmother was cooking dinner, a feast. For him. Always for him. As I entered quietly, trying not to attract attention, Ava suddenly pointed at me dramatically. Mom, he's back. My stepmother walked over with that same stern, irritated expression she reserved only for me. We need to talk, she said. My chest tightened. About what now? She crossed her arms. Noah told us you've been giving him strange looks. You're making him uncomfortable. I blinked. Strange looks? I haven't even spoken to him. Rose shrugged. Maybe he's scared of you. Scared. Of me. As if I had ever hurt anyone in this house. My stepmother's next words sliced through the room like a knife. From now on, you stay in your room unless I say otherwise. Don't talk to Noah. Don't bother the girls. Don't cause problems. I stared in disbelief. You're grounding me? For what? For everything, she snapped. Everything. Every lie they told. Every accusation they invented. Every truth I could never prove. I felt the last piece of my spirit snap clean in half. There was nothing left to lose. Not respect. Not love. Not family. Not a place in their world. I turned around and walked to my room, but I didn't feel defeated. I felt empty, and that emptiness was more dangerous than anger. The moment I broke. Inside my tiny room, surrounded by boxes and shadows, I sat on the cold floor and let everything hit me. The lies, the manipulation, the replacement, the betrayal, the loss of my father's memory, the stolen hoodie, the stolen room, the stolen family. All of it. I didn't cry. Not this time. Something darker settled inside me. Not hatred. Not rage. Just a numb, cold clarity. They had taken everything from me. And for the first time, I understood. If I stayed silent, I would disappear completely. And that was the moment, the exact moment, when the idea of fighting back formed in my mind. Not with words. Not with tears. Not with begging. But with something they could never ignore. Something that would shake their perfect little world to its core. My breaking point wasn't the end. It was the beginning of my revenge. The storm arrived before I did. Thunder rolled across the sky like an angry giant waking from centuries of sleep, and lightning clawed at the clouds in jagged white streaks. The wind howled against my jacket, pulling and pushing me as if nature itself was warning me to turn back. But I wasn't going back. Not this time. The bat in my hand felt heavy, yet comforting, like a final answer to a long, painful equation. It was old, wooden, worn from years of use. I had played baseball with it as a kid. My stepfather bought it for me on a day when being part of this family still felt real. That bat had once hit home runs under bright summer skies. Tonight, it would hit something else. I walked up the driveway slowly, my shoes splashing through puddles forming on the concrete. The house in front of me was glowing warmly, laughter leaking through the windows. They were having dinner, my stepsisters, my stepmother, and him. Their precious adopted son. The boy who replaced me. The boy who helped them erase me. I stopped at the edge of the porch. Rain dripped from my hair, slid down my face, and soaked through my clothes until I could barely feel my own skin. But the numbness inside me, that had been there long before the rain. For days, I had replayed everything they did. The stolen room, the lies, the betrayal, the constant humiliation. I remembered how they had watched with cold satisfaction when I was thrown out of my own home. How they had stood together like a perfect little family, without me. I knocked once. Not loud. Not soft. Just enough. The laughter inside paused. The door opened halfway, and my eldest stepsister appeared. Her smile faded instantly when she saw me, wet, silent, and holding the bat. Her face went pale. Why are you here?" she whispered, voice trembling. I said nothing. I didn't threaten her. I didn't raise the bat. I just walked past her. The others were at the dining table. Plates full of food sat in front of them, candles flickered, and the newly adopted son sat in my seat, my spot at the table where I used to eat every night. My stepmother gasped. My youngest stepsister's fork clattered onto the plate. And the boy, the one they traded me for, stared with wide eyes, confused, as if he couldn't understand what was happening. "Put the bat down," my stepmother said shakily. "Just talk to us. Talk. Talk." I felt a bitter laugh rise in my throat, but I didn't let it out. The time for talking ended the day they decided I didn't matter anymore. My middle stepsister stood up, blocking the boy as if I had come here to hurt him. I wasn't here to hurt anyone, but I was here to show them what they had created. I looked around the dining room. Everywhere I turned, I saw pieces of my life, my belongings, my memories, my things, now repurposed, reassigned, given away like I never existed. They gave him the jacket I loved. They gave him the chair I always sat in. They even gave him the picture frame I once made as a kid, replacing my photo with his. So I lifted the bat. Not toward them. Not toward the boy. But toward the room that used to be mine. The first swing shattered the framed family photo hanging on the wall. Glass exploded, raining onto the floor like glittering tears. Everyone screamed. But I didn't stop. I swung again, my bat smashing into the decorative shelf that once held my childhood trophies, now filled with trinkets they bought for him. Wood splintered. Things fell. My trophies, still with my name on them, tumbled out and rolled across the floor, dirty and forgotten. I kept going. I smashed the lamp they bought for him with my money. I shattered the vase my stepfather once praised me for choosing. I crushed the small wooden box my real mother left behind for me, taken by them and used as a decoration for him. Every swing echoed through the house like justice, loud, merciless, real. "Stop! Stop!" my eldest stepsister screamed, tears spilling down her face. I didn't stop. Years of quiet suffering roared out of me with every hit. Every humiliation, every betrayal, Every moment they treated me like I didn't belong fueled my next swing. The house was filled with sobbing and gasps and begging, but I didn't look at them. Because this wasn't revenge on them. This was reclaiming myself. Finally, when the room lay in ruins and pieces of my old life were scattered everywhere, I lowered the bat. My chest rose and fell with each heavy breath. Rain ran down from my hair onto my face, mixing with sweat, maybe with tears I refused to acknowledge. For a long moment, nobody moved. My stepsisters' faces were streaked with shock. My stepmother stood frozen, hands shaking uncontrollably. The adopted boy looked terrified, not of me, but of the truth now spread across the floor. They finally saw it, the damage they had caused, the depth of what they had done. I dropped the bat. The thud echoed through the broken room. "I didn't break your family," I finally said. "You broke mine." I stepped back toward the door. No one stopped me. No one spoke. Outside, the storm had calmed. The rain had softened into a gentle drizzle, as if the sky itself was exhausted. I walked down the driveway, away from the house, away from the betrayal, away from everything they had taken. Behind me, through the shattered window, my stepsisters watched with hollow eyes. For the first time truly understanding what they had done. For the first time, they regretted choosing him over me. And I? For the first time, I felt free. Regret doesn't arrive like a storm. It arrives quietly, slow, cold, and suffocating. That's how it came for them. After I walked out of that house, leaving behind broken memories and shattered pieces of the life they stole from me, I expected the storm to follow me. I expected shouting, running, someone grabbing my arm and trying to stop me. But behind me, nothing came. Just silence. A silence that said everything. I walked through the dim street as the last drops of rain slid off the rooftops. The world smelled like wet earth and endings. My chest was tight, not from fear or guilt, but from the strange freedom settling inside me like a new heartbeat. For once, I had done something for myself. Not for their approval, not to avoid conflict, not to keep peace in a house that never wanted me. I didn't know where I was going. But I knew I wasn't going back. Not ever. The morning after, the sun peeked over the horizon as if afraid of what the night had created. I sat on a bench near the edge of town, the wooden slats cold under me. My clothes were still damp, but inside I felt lighter than I had in years. While I sat there catching my breath, my phone buzzed for the first time. 1 missed call, stepmom. 4 messages, eldest stepsister. 3 messages, middle stepsister. 6 messages, youngest stepsister. I didn't open them. Not yet. I stared at the list, remembering the looks on their faces when the truth finally cracked their perfect world open. Fear. Guilt. Shock. Regret. Regret, the one emotion none of them had shown in years. I let the phone drop beside me and closed my eyes. The wind was calm now, brushing gently against my face, as if congratulating me on making it through the hardest night of my life. For the first time, the world felt quiet, peaceful almost. Inside the house I left behind. Later, my youngest stepsister would confess everything. She would say the moment I walked away, the house felt colder than the storm outside. The sound of the bat hitting the floor echoed in her head long after I was gone. She picked up your broken trophy, she had said in a shaky voice days later. She just held it, and she cried. Something she'd never done for me. My middle stepsister wasn't much different. She had dropped to her knees, picking up shattered pieces of the photo frame I destroyed, the frame they had used to replace my face with the adopted boy's. She whispered, "We went too far, we went too far." My eldest stepsister didn't say anything. She just stared at the destroyed room, hands trembling, realizing that every piece scattered across the floor was something she took from me. Joyfully, proudly, intentionally. And the adopted boy. He simply stood there, confused and scared, realizing maybe for the first time that he had walked into a war he never understood. None of them slept that night. Regret had finally forced its way in. The aftermath. Around noon, I finally opened the first message. Eldest stepsister. We need to talk. Please. I ignored it. A few minutes later, another. Middle stepsister. Come home. We're sorry. Everything got out of hand. That one made me laugh bitterly. Got out of hand? No, it had been deliberate. My youngest stepsister sent a longer one. Youngest stepsister. Please just hear us out. We never meant to replace you. We just got jealous. We took it out on you because we knew you wouldn't fight back. I'm sorry. Really. Her message hurt the most. Because it was honest. But honesty doesn't fix damage. their unexpected visit. That evening, I heard footsteps approaching the bench where I sat. Quiet, hesitant. I didn't have to look up to know who it was. My stepsisters stood in front of me, no makeup, no attitude, no perfect confidence. Just tired eyes and swollen faces from hours of crying. They didn't sit. They didn't pretend. They just stood there, shivering in the gentle breeze as if the world had suddenly become too cold for them. My eldest stepsister swallowed hard. When you walked out, it felt like the whole house fell apart with you. My middle stepsister took a step forward. We took everything from you. We know that. But when you broke the furniture, the frames, the things we replaced you with, it made us realize what we did. The youngest one wiped her eyes. You weren't trying to hurt us. You were showing us the truth. For the first time in years, they understood something. I wasn't the problem. They were. Their apologies. Each apology came separately, painful and real. My jealousy made me cruel, the eldest whispered. I'm sorry. I thought making you small would make me feel bigger, the middle one said. It didn't. I wanted you to fight back, the youngest cried softly. But you never did, so we kept pushing. I let their words hang in the air. Regret had finally made them human. But regret isn't a key that unlocks the past. It doesn't undo damage. It doesn't erase memories. It only reminds you of everything you should have done differently. My answer. When they finally stopped talking, they looked at me as if waiting for a miracle. Waiting for forgiveness, acceptance, a chance to go back to how things were. But things would never go back. That version of me, the quiet one, the forgiving one, the one who tolerated their cruelty, was gone. I stood slowly, my legs stiff from hours of sitting. They watched, holding their breath. I'm not coming back, I said softly. Their faces broke all over again. You can fix the house, I continued. You can buy new furniture, new frames, new decorations. But you can't fix what you broke in me. The youngest sobbed. The middle one covered her mouth. The eldest took a trembling step toward me. I'm not leaving because of what I destroyed, I said. I'm leaving because of what you destroyed long before that. Their tears fell freely now. And maybe someday, I finished, you'll forgive yourselves. But I won't be there to make it easier. I walked past them. None of them followed. They understood now. The bat didn't break their home. Their choices did. A new beginning. As I walked down the quiet road, the sunset painted the sky in warm shades of orange and gold. For the first time in years, I breathed deeply without feeling pain in my chest. Regret had found them. Freedom had found me. I didn't know exactly where my life was heading next. But I finally knew where it wasn't heading. Back to them. Back to that house. Back to the pain. The storm was gone. The world was quiet. And I was finally free.